that, you know, St. Louis County did that. I didn't have some kind of flood insurance. But anyway, we went on the website to FEMA, and my house is actually in a flood zone. Yeah.
Good evening, this is Graham from the clerk's office, just calling to
Yeah, I
see if you
remember
were
before we
receiving
had
the
talked to
council.
the council about that.
Okay,
That's
thank you
where
so
the
much.
water went up.
Right.
A man who not too far from my house.
Is it gonna be enough?
Well, it may not be a number, we got to start. We cannot.
Right.
The amount of phone calls, you know, the big potholes in the water.
Bill Harris.
He was just
They gotta keep us abreast with all this going on. They can't let us know within the last seconds of the meeting.
Wild time, boy.
That's why it really matters to us that
Where's all the work?
I got to deal with whoever it is.
I used to have to sit to the next to the second district council person at the time.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Is that why you ran for president? I don't know.
No motivation. Yes. I know.
Sure, we all experienced this when I first started. I thought they just don't know, you know. But since then, how many times have we gone to the administration and told us that they
Well, I told you this, and I wanted to say I'm on the council, so some of the stuff that goes on with them,
One of my iPhones? Yep. They're all synced to the satellite.
If you've been careful for the barber shop. But you don't know.
Go back and revisit those ones. The guys too, because the ones that you cut off are the ones that keep it living. They go on the streets and like this.
Didn't make sense.
Sharon, I'm sorry we don't have a name tag for you, but good morning, Jason. He should have done that quicker. We get a paper one. Leave your smiley face. It'll go over.
I mean, on the stress. We're going to start.
45 seconds.
That clock's like 2 minutes fast.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Good evening. The Monday, February 26th, 2018 Common Council meeting is now in session. Before our invocation, I'd like to welcome our newest member to the Common Council, 3rd District Representative, Sharon McBride. Thank you for joining us. With that, we'll have our invocation by Pastor Ricardo Taylor of Mount Carmel Missionary Baptist Church. Thank you, sir, for coming.
Let us pray. Awesome God, we come to your presence on this night, and we thank you for your hand that's on our lives, and we thank you for the position you placed us in to make a difference. Lord, we pray now that you bless this council, give them wisdom, give them power to make great and sound decisions for our community. We thank you now for their homes, Father God. Give them your peace, and we ask that on this night, Lord, that they would start just unifying themselves to be strong to make a difference in this year. We just love you for being an awesome God, and we just thank you for this night. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Let everybody say amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Please turn off your cell phones or turn them to silent.
I'm going to welcome Okay, cool.
Ms. Kaufman, would you please do roll?
Councilmember Preston.
Here.
Councilmember McBride.
Here.
Councilmember Broden.
Here.
Councilmember Varner.
Present.
Vice President Davis.
Present.
Councilmember Vorty.
Here.
Councilmember Furlick.
Here.
Councilmember White.
Present.
President Scott.
Present.
9 present.
Thank you. Subcommittee on minutes, please.
To the Common Council of the City of South Bend, the subcommittee has inspected the minutes of the February 12th, 2018 meeting of the council and found them to be correct. Therefore, we recommend the same be approved.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Vice President Oliver Davis, are there any special guests in the audience that you notice?
We'd like to have Dr. Desiree Davis and her policy class from Andrews University, the social work class. Always glad to see social workers from Andrews University who traveled down to visit with us tonight. I'd like to welcome them here tonight. Thank you.
You will see Democracy in Action tonight from probably the coolest council I've ever been associated with. So,
That's right.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome.
Okay, report from the city offices. We have an update from administration on the current flooding status. And who would be making that presentation?
Laura O'Sullivan, Chief of Staff, Mayor's Office. Our office is on the 14th floor of this building. Eric Horvath will follow me with comments on the flood, but I'm here to read a letter from Mayor on his behalf.
Thank you, Laura.
Good evening, council members. I'm sorry that I can't be there tonight, but I am unable to join this evening because I am in Indianapolis with Indiana's mayors for the annual legislative dinner of Advancing Indiana Municipalities. At this event, we will engage with state legislators to discuss bills that would affect the city in this legislative session. This year, we are tracking several bills impacting annexation, settlement agreements, water infrastructure, and other issues, and my office is happy to update you on any developments in this regard. I particularly regret missing this evening's meeting because I would like to congratulate the council's newest member, Sharon McBride. As I told her on the phone Saturday, she is joining the council at a time when cooperation with the administration is strong and at a time when the council's role will be more important than ever, given the challenges and opportunities ahead. As Council Member Kelly comes off the council, I want to sincerely thank him for his public service and wish him well as he returns to the community as a private citizen. I also want to thank everyone who played a role in our response to the flood emergency. Eric Horvath will provide a more detailed update shortly, but I want to thank all of the personnel in my office and throughout the administration, as well as our council and intergovernmental partners for their quick response. I have shown the affected area to Senator Donnelly, Congresswoman Malarkey, and Governor Holcomb, and we'll continue working with them to seek disaster aid where available. Our main concern now is to accurately tally storm damage and to address the condition of roads and parks as the waters recede. Meanwhile, we are at work preparing the State of the City address for March 13th and look forward to updating you in the community that evening at Adams High School. See you soon, Pete.
Thank you. Mr. Horvath.
Good evening. Eric Horvath, Public Works Director, 13th floor of this building. Good evening, Council. Welcome, Councilmember McBride. Look forward to working with you. I'll give a quick update and then answer any questions now or later if the Council would like. We had a historic flooding event that occurred here, and we're still in the midst of seeing the waters recede. We're currently at a river gauge depth of about 9.8 feet and do not expect it to be 8 feet until Wednesday at 4 p.m. so it's slowly receding. The issue is that you've got a large watershed, about 4,700 square miles, double the size of Delaware, that with the frozen ground, everything that was melting and all the rain that hit was just hitting the streams very quickly. And so we're normally under warmer conditions. The earth acts as a sponge. It takes a lot of the water. It was just all hitting the rivers, and it was hitting it very quickly. So we crested at 12.7 feet on Thursday morning at 1:30 a.m. And prior to that, our historic record crest was 10.9 feet. So we're a couple feet higher than our historic record. To give you an idea where that is, our 10th largest crest in South Bend's history was 6.9 feet, so about 5 feet less. So it's considerably more than we've ever had in at least the recorded time, well over the 500-year flood level. So it's just a really significant event. The streets that we still have closed right now are Riverside East from Marion to Michigan, Riverside West from Michigan to Lafayette, Buckhorn from Carroll to Buckhorn, and then Northside Boulevard from Sample to 20th, and then some of the streets that go north off of Northside. As of right now, we've had 315 reports of flood damage in the county. Of that, 180 of those are from South Bend. We've got 17 parks and trails areas currently closed, along with the roads that we just mentioned. And as you guys saw on the thing, we got our drinking water was safe the entire time. We did have some water coming in our North Main plant, but we were able to work with things and keep everything operating and not have any excursions on the drinking water. On the wastewater side, there was just so much flow that it overwhelmed parts of the plant, including initially the chlorine area, which is still a couple feet underwater. And the water got so high that hydraulically the water couldn't get out of the plant, so we just couldn't push any water out. So on Wednesday, February 21st at 9 p.m., we had to completely close the plant. Which doesn't mean we block off the sewers. It means that they overflow to the river at that time, and we're not treating anything until about 6 a.m. The next morning. We had it completely shut down. And then there was a period that we had at 20 million gallons, but for the most part, we've been able to continue to operate at 50 million gallons a day. And so we're doing at the treatment plants, we're taking all of the direct sewer flow, mostly from Intech on Coat Line, that is not combined with clean water, so it's a little more potent stuff, and we're treating that. In addition to that, we're taking about 15% of the sewage, the combined sewage, off of the main interceptor line. We're going to see this continue to be an issue for a number of days. The plan, or the issue right now that we're having is that the river's actually in places coming back into the sewer system. You've got these valves that close it, but they're not super tight, and you're not used to having this much hydraulic head on. And so what we're seeing is that we're actually getting river water into those main lines, and so we'll see that for a number of days here. But the treatment plant is back up and running, and as of now, we're kind of moving from the emergency response mode to the recovery mode. And so what you'll see over the next number of days is staff out working on infrastructure issues. Again, we ask everyone, if it's public infrastructure issues like roads or paths or something like that that you see an issue, call 311, report it, and we'll look into it. We'll make sure everything's safe. We won't reopen something until we have an engineer take a look at it, make an analysis, or do the necessary repairs if we need to. And then if you have private property damage, we continue to ask you to do the EMA number, which is the 235-9378. And there's also an online form on St. Joe County website, right on their front page. You can click on a link that you can do it online as well, so you can either call in or do it online. But it is important that we get all those numbers, even if we have somebody who's planning on doing the work themselves. We'd like to make sure that we understand the magnitude of the issues, so that as we apply for disaster relief, we can include that in the application.
Eric,
As you
what
know,
was that number again, please? On the-
235-9378.
Okay.
So as you know, the governor declared this a disaster area that will allow us to be in line for potential federal funds. Last time in 16, we had major issues. We had SBA loans and grants that they actually set up office here to help out. We anticipate something similar to that happening, but no details have been worked out yet. But those will be handled through the EMA office. And so again, we want to make sure people are notifying them so that they can help people with recovery as well. So engineering is going to continue to assess the condition of roads as the water recedes and looking at our parks and pathways. And we do not have any cost estimates yet on repairs to damage. We will be getting those over the next couple of weeks. Street Department continues to clean the roads, and sewers cleaning the catch basins and inlets, trying to prepare for any other storm events so that we make sure we're ready. In addition to that, I would like to mention that solid waste has started an amnesty period. So for any flood damage that you have, you can call 311 for a special pickup, and we'll pick up as much trash as they have, flood damage trash they have, free of charge. So if we can make sure we get that out as well. And then finally, I'll say that along with all of this, although it may not seem like it, our street department's been very, very busy trying to patch potholes. I've never experienced them as bad as this year. It's the worst I've ever experienced. But we've had 6 crews out almost around the clock. We had 6 crews out again today. We'll have 4 tonight, working through the night, continuing to patch until we get caught up, which probably will be somewhere around the end of the week. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
We'll do a couple questions for Eric, starting with Ms. White, working this way.
No, I'm fine. I just thank you for all, the work that, the administration and the crew that they've done. And I'm glad you addressed potholes, because I was going to ask that question. And again, just thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you. I should say that it was refreshing to see that in tough times, people do come together. It was great to see congresspeople, senators, and the governor coming here, but also just the interactions between all the city departments, the county, and state. Every time we asked for some help, we got it. We got it quickly. So it, was a great testament to everyone coming together.
Kevin.
Thank you to you and your team. Thanks.
John.
Thanks. Thank you. Great job on what you all are doing. What can be done? We've had this situation in 2016, and now we're having a greater thing in 2018. Seems like those who may or may not believe in global warming or whatever is all happening at the same time. What can be done for the city, if any, that can help insurance companies help require or offer flood insurance for us in this area? We live in a very wet zone, more than people realize. Do you have any thoughts on that part of it?
Actually, I apologize. I'm not well versed on private insurance for flood areas. That's something we can look into. We can have our legal department look into options for residents. I think if they're in the firm areas, which is the flood insurance maps, I think they actually have to get federal, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm really not familiar with the process. The one thing I will say, and obviously we'll be working on some climate stuff as well, and we've got some plans that we'll be trying to move forward, and I won't go into that necessarily, but one thing I will say, one of the things that we were able to do this year was we worked really hard. We had guys all night making sure we kept Bowman Creek running, and that prevented a lot of damage from happening upstream. So the Jewel Woods area that got hit so hard last time, I think made it through this time as well as they could have. But it was mostly because we continued to keep all those areas from blockages. So what happens is you get so much debris coming through, you get a blockage and it just backs everything up. So it's a good lesson learned from 16 to 18 that helped us.
Now, not all of our streets are city streets. I noticed on Sunday, it seems like there was some state vehicles patching some roads, especially in front of the police department and fire department. That one that had not been touched. Is there any way that our streets that are run or organized or owned by the state can get out there a little earlier? Because we were out there, but I didn't see a lot of the state vehicles out there. Is there any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we'll make sure that we do a better job of calling them earlier. When we called them, they did get out there. They've had 4 crews on State Route 23, Eddy sample area. And again, even today, they had 4 crews out there. But I think probably that's just the best thing we can do is make sure we're communicating to them and letting them know up front when we see issues.
Because in that area, with all of our public safety,
yeah, it was horrible.
I mean, right there, I had a concern. I think there was a problem with even one of our ambulances, all that kind of thing. And so it seems like that section, when it comes down to it, has been neglected a lot. And then people have called because it's right there, 6. And then when they call the city, it's not city and it's state. And so therefore, and when you tell people it's state, they almost look like, now how is that state doing it right there? Right. But I think that they needed to really jump on that much faster.
Yeah, and that area is all on their list for getting a resurfacing this year. And so hopefully a lot of that will be taken care of with the resurfacing. But point well taken. We'll make sure we communicate to them early.
I appreciate that. Thank you for your time.
Dr. Dave?
I would say you've heard a lot of appreciation from the folks who've been given a lot of appreciation, folks for the work that you've done and things like that. I hope that you find in your busy schedule time to relay that to the folks on the staff and the folks on the street, because they probably don't hear anything from us very often. But when something like this happens, we know they respond. We've seen it with flood. We've seen it with snow. Would you make sure that they get some
absolutely. I appreciate you saying that, because I think that is often overlooked, and they are there. They're the people who are on the ground doing the work in the middle of the night. So,
thank you.
That was my thought. Out my door, out my window, 24 hours in any direction. You saw city workers circulating and sitting and blocking off roads, that were problematic. So deep gratitude to the folks on the ground, and then to you and your leadership and the mayor as well. I think we did an outstanding job with regards to communicating road closures and just keeping people up to date, and I think that's great. And I love what I'm hearing about these other opportunities to chase information and reporting. I do have a question, though, with regard to the known damage area versus what's reported. We've got reports of 180 South Bend homes affected. Any sense of whether or not that's a good reporting percentage, kind of visually looking at the scope of the issues? And then I guess a follow-up question to that would be, is certainly the importance of those individuals reporting to us sort of at this first tier, but then following through with the more extensive filing with emergency management. I think those are all, important steps that we want to make sure people get chased to. So, and I thank the media for their coverage of the event and being a willingness to share some of these contact points. Next question, too, is there were several individuals who had electricity shutoffs, and then those require, because of the combination of water in basements, but those require inspections, and I just want to make sure, that our department, our building department is, enabled to get out there and get those done as soon as possible, because obviously with the change of the weather that's anticipated, that could, if the furnaces aren't going back on, then we're going to have additional damage because of freezing water lines. And then my last piece is, thank God for the amnesty on the debris removal. That would certainly help individuals in the community. So thanks so much for that.
Sure. Real quick, I don't have any. I'm not sure on the percentage that we've, if we've received half of them or not. It seems like there was actually more calls than I thought we would have gotten, honestly. It was a pretty good it was pretty much all over the places in the areas where we saw the river high and
Right.
close to the river. Most of the reports were in the basement, and it was basement damage, and most of them were in a little enough water that you wouldn't expect to have structural damage. Obviously, there's probably going to be about 10 to 15 homes on the Emerson Drive area that may be total losses as we see that, and we'll continue to follow up with those. We had 30 shutoffs on the electric, and we will work with building department to get those back. There's a process that they'll have to go through to make sure it's inspected before I&M will turn the power back on, just to make sure everyone's safe and secure before they put the electric back on. Does that answer? I think that was...
That's it.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you.
Councilperson McBride.
Thank you. I would like to say thank you to the city for your swift response, especially for the flooding. I had the privilege of working over at the wastewater treatment plant and inspected it for a few years, and they have always been a state-of-the-art facility, and it could have been a lot worse, but it had no effect on our drinking water, so I appreciate the swiftness of their action. So kudos to them.
Thank you.
Ms. Preston?
Also, thank you. As much as everybody else appreciates it, I absolutely do. I have a question for you. With regards to potholes,
Yes.
I'm just curious about, like, we've had this process that you did, and you impressed me so much a couple of years ago with the storm. And when you report to 311, do we have that same kind of system already for the potholes where you report and then the system is up there? So that is in place? So
Yes.
people can go and see their report as a dot and all that, and then are we getting tickets and stuff like
Yes,
that?
in fact, probably what we should do is we probably should have that online available to everyone.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be all that difficult. My only concern is making sure we can do it in a way that don't slow down the crews from filling potholes by marking that they filled them in. But we can figure that out. But yeah, I think that's a good point, is to try to have something online. But we do 311. If you call them 311, that will go to the street department, and then they will immediately get out there and fix them. Under normal conditions, that happens usually within 24 hours, but within 48 hours. In conditions like this, they're just trying to go as fast as they can to get everyone they can.
I appreciate it. I know just when I have people calling and asking various different things, if it's not the storm and the trees down, then it's the potholes, or, I know code was going to come online. I haven't checked. Are they online now for, like, illegal dumps and tall grass and things like that?
Actually, I'm not sure if that's...
And I don't mean to
We'll
get
do an
off.
IT
I'll find
update.
out. I'll
Yeah.
find out. But I just think that it's just such a great service to the residents, because that's most of the time what they want to know is that, is it being handled? Does somebody already know about it?
Yes.
So it'll prevent them from just constantly calling and calling and calling.
Thank you.
So Eric, again, thank the crews, and Todd's in the back too, the EMS and the fire and everybody's out there. I do know that, talking to Code today, that they are actually helping the building department. Building department has 400 houses that they have to inspect. I know Code was going to help with about 100 of those. No, I think it's 500. They're going to help do 100, and building department had like 400. So trying to do whatever they can to get back into that. Yeah, we got to look into the insurance issue. We had gas and power turned off in Keller Park. I was going door to door down there. A lot of people had basement issues. The interesting thing is, we're houses that are, I would say, 50 feet, 60 feet, 100 feet from the river, and they're not they weren't eligible for flood insurance because it's based on a 100-year flood, and this is a 500-year flood. So there's a lot of issues there. So we'll pass out the EMA information. We'll put it up on our council website as well as Facebook and such, and what people need to do to report. So thank you for coming.
Thanks. Yeah, let me just, real quick, if you say that, sorry, I'll be...
That's okay.
The insurance is a really good point. I think hopefully what we'll see is that, so what happened last time in 16 was SBA came and they did a loan program, and so they set up and you could apply and you'd find out pretty much instantly whether you get a loan. And you could do additional stuff as well, and it was a low interest, so you could actually take some of your mortgage and work it in there. So it was a hugely helpful program. Those who didn't meet the requirements and couldn't get the loan then were given an opportunity to get grants, and they gave out about it was $500,000, I think, to I think it was over 100 homes. I think it was around 100 homes for $500,000. So a significant amount of money went out the last time, and so hopefully we'll have opportunities for folks if they don't have insurance.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you, Laura, as well. Okay, with that, we'll move on with the agenda. Can I entertain a motion to rise to the committee of the whole?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It's up to you.
Sounds good.
I guess we're staying put.
Stay put.
The Committee of the Whole is now in session. This is the portion of the council meeting where the full council meets as a committee. During each ordinance, members of the public will have an opportunity to comment, either in favor or in opposition. Your comments will be limited to 5 minutes per bill. With that, would the city clerk please read 0418?
0418, public hearing on an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance and seeking a special exception for property located at 2104, 2108, and 2112 East Mishawaka Avenue, and 914 and 918 South 21st Street, Councilmanic District Number 3 in the city of South Bend, Indiana.
Do we have a committee report?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The Zoning and Annexation Committee met this afternoon, and we bring this bill to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a presenter?
Good evening, Angela Smith from the Area Planning Commission with offices located on the 11th floor of this building. The petition before you this evening is for the proposed fire station along Mishawaka Avenue. It acquired several properties in the area. The ones along Mishawaka Avenue were currently zoned MU mixed-use district, but there were some properties zoned SF2 single-family and two-family. In order to look at the project as a cohesive event, they brought the whole thing in for a rezoning to MU mixed-use district and are seeking the special exception approval for the fire station. The site has currently been cleared, so it is a vacant site as of now. I will let the petitioner speak a little bit more about the site plan for the fire station, but in general, it meets the requirements of the MU mixed-use district, the one recently adopted by the council. There were a couple variations, primarily to move the building a little bit south so that there was enough room for the trucks to exit safely onto Mishawaka Avenue with clear site area. This comes to you from the Area Planning Commission with a favorable recommendation. Rezoning the site to MU mixed use will allow a consistent zoning district for a harmonious development of the site, and approval of the special exception used for the fire station will allow the city to improve its public safety services to the community. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Let's hear from the presenter. Please state your name and address.
Good evening, council members. Todd Sporkin, Assistant Chief of South Bend Fire Department, offices at 1222 South Michigan Street. First of all, I would like to thank the council for your continued support of this project. As many of you know, it's been a long time coming and a hard-fought, well-fought, collaborative process. So our partners in the city, whether it be through DCI that's successfully negotiated the acquisition of those 5 properties, to the support from the council and mayor and all of the other city departments that have been involved in this, have been tremendous. So if we can go to the next slide. I did bring a rendering. Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't see you put that there. So this is a rendering of the building. As I mentioned today in committee, we are opening bids for construction tomorrow at the Board of Works meeting. So as has been discussed throughout the lead up to this project, are a couple of our main goals in this building were to provide basically modern facilities for our firefighters. Our current station on the avenue was built in 1926, not suitable for a mixed gender workforce, difficult to fit modern fire apparatus into. It only had a single bay, so it lacked the ability for us to put other equipment in that facility as well. So with this construction, we'll be able to not only house Engine 9, but also an ambulance, which is sorely needed on the east side of town, as well as a boat truck. So, as Eric Korbach mentioned earlier, some of the work that the fire department did in the flood response was in that Emerson Drive north side area. So that's one of our primary boat launches in that region. So to be able to have the boat just that much closer is going to be very rewarding for us. Any questions?
Any questions from council? Yes? Yes, could you talk about the issue regarding your neighbor and how you worked out the situation with that?
Absolutely.
And secondly, would there be any room there for training or any kind of thing there?
So sure, one after the other. So immediately to the south of us, we do have a neighbor that is prior to the alleyway there. So during the time frame when we were acquiring the other properties, I believe 3 of them were vacant and 2 had tenants, which we allowed to complete their leases, so no one was displaced out of turn for this. There was communication with that property owner who ultimately elected to stay in their home. So with that, Chief Cox has met personally with that property owner, and he had a couple of requests of the city, one being the removal of a tree that was in the southeast corner of the property, which has already been taken care of during demolition, and the other was for the addition of a white vinyl fence that ran up to the front of his house, which we also have agreed to provide. So I think with those 2 concerns, we worked well with that neighbor. To your training question, one of the things that we're doing with each of our new fire station builds, and Station 4 on the west side as well, is really try to work in some of those opportunities. So we install high anchor points for different rope training and things, and for this to be a river rescue house, that'll be even more beneficial because there's a lot of work on that team with ropes and different hauling systems and things like that. So we do keep a mind for that. We always make sure that we have a hydrant accessible. A lot of our most basic training can be just accomplished in the quarters doing things like that. So we do keep a mind for that and work with our architects to try to work in those unique opportunities when we can.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none? Oh, yeah. And one more last one. Just because that's over there in the 3rd, that's not going to just only serve that area. That can serve other places too.
That's absolutely true. So Station 9 is a very important station, being right on the border, sort of in the middle. So it is one of the first 2 companies where is our Park Jefferson apartment area, as well as covering the commercial district along the south. So, and that's why we're really looking forward to specifically adding an ambulance there to have that EMS capability too, because really our easternmost ambulance is Station 1, which is way out by the fairgrounds. So on York Road at Station 10.
Yeah.
So this has been sorely needed for quite a while.
Thank you, sir. Seeing no other questions, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, back to the council. What's your pleasure? Move for a favorable recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. City Clerk, would you please read 0718?
0718, public hearing on an ordinance to vacate the following described property. The right-of-way to be vacated begins at a point approximately 565 feet south on South St. Joseph Street from the East Ireland Road south right-of-way, running south approximately 75 feet, then west approximately 88 feet, then north approximately 109 feet, to a point approximately 530 feet south along South St. Joseph Street from the East Ireland south right-of-way.
Your committee report, please.
Public Works and Property Vacation Committee reviewed this earlier and sent it to full council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a presenter? Please state your name and address.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Tom O'Neill with Menard Incorporated, 5101 Menard Drive, Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Here on behalf of Menard, requesting the vacation of the southernmost portion of St. Joseph Street. We've been working for some time to assemble enough properties to replace our existing store further to the east. It's been a long time coming, but with the acquisition of the former Kmart property, an acre of additional commercial property, several residences, several vacant parcels that were comprised of remnant land occasioned by the Fellow Street overpass, with some INDOT right-of-way we acquired. We've assembled, we've brought enough property together to complete this. This is one of the final steps in gaining enough acreage for our new site planning for our new Menard store, just the very southernmost tip of St. Joseph Street, which is owned on all sides. We're requesting the vacation by Menard Incorporated. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions from either council or public.
That's good. Any questions from council? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, the public portion is closed. Back to the council. What's your pleasure?
Move for favorable recommendation.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. City Clerk, would you please read 1018?
1018, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending ordinance number 10546-17 by adding new salary and wage positions to the ordinance, fixing maximum salaries and wages of appointed officers and non-bargaining employees of the City of South Bend for the calendar year 2018.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, the Personnel and Finance Committee held a committee meeting and public hearing on this bill. We sent it to council with a favorable recommendation.
Is there a presenter, please?
Good evening, Council. Aaron Perry, Executive Director of Venues, Parks, and Arts. Offices at 321 East Walter Street. I did bring additional copies of the handout I distributed during the committee, if anyone needs those. The ordinance in front of you essentially is a change in the salary ordinance. This is something that we mentioned during the budget process. We allocated funds for Century Center's operating budget, personnel and operating budget, noting that come sometime in early 2018 we'd be making a change structurally in the contract. That change is shaping up as we speak, and we know exactly how that's going to shake out. Essentially what happens is approximately 8 employees will transfer from contract labor with SMG to become city employees once again. As I mentioned earlier today, these folks, a lot of these folks were city employees at one point in time, approximately 10 years ago, before we went to contract labor. This kind of halfway undoes that and revisits the idea of a public-private partnership. This will allow the city to focus and double down its efforts on the things it does well. You'll note the positions that we're bringing to the city side of things are folks that care for the asset. These are facilities and grounds folks, human resources, IT, accounting, things of that nature. Well, we'll continue to partner with SMG to work on the things they do really well, which is sales and food and beverage service. Thankful for Leanna Ballou, General Manager of Century Center, and Jeff Jarnacki, our Deputy Director, who've been working on putting the nuts and bolts of this contract together. I should note that the employees that are coming over, the 8 employees that are coming over to the city side, will be brought over at comparable salaries and benefit levels. So we've been working hard to make that possible. And ultimately, this will result in approximately $200,000 at a minimum savings over time to the Century Center annually. That we'll be able to reinvest in a couple things, whether that be capital improvements to the convention center itself or a business development fund designed to attract conferences, trade shows, and conventions to our area. I think those are the notes. I'm happy to answer any questions. I want to note that in response to a couple of requests at the committee, I did email the job descriptions, so everybody will have those in their inbox, noting that they're all going to be filled by folks that are currently at the convention center. These are longtime employees, except for the one, which would be the general manager of the joint ventures. We'll be posting that one on the city website in due time here. And then to Councilman Davis' response, he asked about some of the demographics. I did email that information.
For the record, could you read that?
Yeah, I'd be glad to.
The demographics for the record?
Yeah.
And also, what was the other one you just mentioned before?
The position descriptions?
Yes. Is there any way that the general public, I know you just emailed that to us, but what's the best way for the general public if they want to take a look at that because they can see our emails?
Well, usually position descriptions are posted online when the jobs are advertised, but these aren't going to be advertised. These have people already in them, so I'm not sure if there's a position description posted online for every current position. I don't think there is. Because these positions are already filled.
They already filled, so
Yeah,
that's them.
that's right.
Fine, we'll live with that. So go with the demographics, please.
So the information I emailed and I'll submit to the clerk as well. I divided it in two ways. One for the venues division. I wasn't sure your question earlier, was it just about the venue division?
It was the chart that you had there,
Okay, so
and so I wanted to know the breakdown in
yep.
terms of gender, race, issues, all those kind of things.
Sure. I divided it in three categories: race, minority, and white. And so that was 14 white, 7 minority. Sex, male and female, that's 10 male, 11 female. And age, those over 50 were 11, and under 50, 10. So roughly, and then I extrapolated that out with all staff as well. It follows, in general, the same type of standard there. But we're seeing about roughly a 60-40 mix on the white versus minority. Closer to a 50-50 on the venues division for male-female, 60-40 for the all-staff. And then gets even closer to 50-50 on the age demographic. So.
I appreciate it, that for the record. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, public portion is closed. Back to the council. What's your pleasure?
Move for favorable recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to rise and resolve from the committee of the whole.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed?
Well,
Motion carries.
no, sure.
Thank you.
Gracias.
The full council is now back in session. Ms. Kaufman, would you please give the reading to 0418?
0418, third reading on an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance and seeking a special exception for property located at 2104, 2108, and 2112 East Mishawaka Avenue, and 914 and 918 South 21st Street, Councilmanic District Number 3 in the city of South Bend, Indiana.
Move for the passage of 418.
Second.
Ms. Kaufman, roll call, please.
Councilmember Preston?
Aye.
Councilmember McBride?
Aye.
Councilmember Roden?
Aye.
Councilmember Varner?
Aye.
Vice President Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty?
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
President Scott?
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. 0718, please.
0718, third reading on an ordinance to vacate the following described property. The right-of-way to be vacated begins at a point approximately 565 feet south on South St. Joseph Street from the East Ireland Road south right-of-way, running south approximately 75 feet, then west approximately 88 feet, then north approximately 109 feet to a point approximately 530 feet south along South St. Joseph Street from the East Ireland south right-of-way.
Move for passage of Bill 07-18.
Second.
Ms. Kaufman?
Councilmember McBride?
Aye.
Councilmember Roden?
Aye.
Councilmember Varner?
Aye.
Vice President Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty?
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Preston?
Aye.
President Scott?
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. 1018, please.
1018, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending ordinance number 10546-17 by adding new salaried and wage positions to the ordinance fixing maximum salaries and wages of appointed officers and non-bargaining employees of the City of South Bend for the calendar year 2018.
Motion for passage.
Second.
Ms. Kaufman?
Councilmember Roden?
Aye.
Councilmember Varner?
Aye.
Vice President Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty?
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Preston?
Aye.
Councilmember McBride?
Aye.
President Scott?
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. Let's move to resolutions. Can I entertain a motion to send 1803 to continue to 325?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Ms. Kaufman, 1804, please.
1804, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition of the Area Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 2602 Mishawaka Avenue.
Motion to move. Motion to approve.
No, we're kind of here. Point of order, I think we have the date wrong for the continuation. It was supposed to be 3/26 is the Monday.
Oh, withdraw the motion?
And then I'd like to make a new motion.
Let's withdraw the motion.
And I'd like to make
Second.
All
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you.
I'd like to make a new motion to continue 1803 to 3/26.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. I don't want to meet on Sunday. So, 1804 we heard. Is there a committee report?
Yes, the Zoning Annexation Committee met, and we bring this to you with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a presenter?
Good evening, Angela Smith from the Area Plan Commission with offices located on the 11th floor of this building. The petitioner is seeking a special exception used to allow for a drive-through, drive-up window in an LB local business district. The building is proposed to be a Big B Coffee. It was a bank with the drive-through facility, but the way our ordinance is written, they need to seek the special exception because it's in the lower zoning classification for commercial use. This comes to you from the Area Board of Zoning Appeals with a favorable recommendation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the presenter at this point? No? Is there a petitioner? You come up and give a very brief description of the project.
Thank you, council members. Kirk Smith, 325 Enterprise Drive, Breckenridge, Michigan. Pretty straightforward project. It is a repurposing of a bank with a drive-through window to a Big B Coffee, and we think that it's a great use, great neighborhood. And Bob Garza is here. If you have any questions, I'm sure he'd be glad to answer about the operation. But we think that this is a great use and a repurposation for that property. Questions?
Thank you, council. Any questions?
Will you offer hot chocolate? Thank you. No, that's all I needed to know.
Is there any other questions? Thank you. We'll open up to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of 1804, please come to the podium. Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak against 1804, please come to the podium. Again, seeing none, turn back to council.
Motion to approve, motion to, adopt. Second. Yeah.
Ms. Kaufman.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Vice President Davis,
Aye. Got hot chocolate.
Councilmember Vorty,
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Preston,
Aye.
Councilmember McBride,
Aye.
Councilmember Broden,
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you for your business. 1807, please.
1807, a resolution of the City of South Bend waiving petitioner the LaSalle Apartments LLC non-compliance with Indiana Code 6-1.1-12.1.6.
Thank you. Is there a committee report?
Yes.
Not you.
Community investment?
That's you. I'm on the committee, but yeah, it's true.
But you're right, Oliver, there was.
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you. Is there a presenter? Or presenters? Petitioners and presenters? All above.
Good evening, council members. James Mueller, Executive Director of Community Investment, 14th floor of this building. As we went through the process last summer, we bundled a lot of the waivers of noncompliance of tax abatements, and this related to the CF1 process, which goes through the council. The tax abatements is a complicated economic development tool that touches the assessor's office, the auditor's office, common council, the clerk, and community investment. And this is a new type of issue that we've encountered that stems from when does the tax abatement starts when the tax abatement, sorry to back up, the tax abatement is on new development. So if you do an investment and you increase the value, you're getting abated as you phase in the project. And so the critical part is, when does year one of a tax abatement start? It starts when the assessor assesses the new assessed value. In this case, the petitioner did not receive a new assessed value in 2016, and therefore did not know this was year one of the abatement to start the process. And I want petitioners here to
State your name and address and just a brief statement.
Jeff Ryan with Real America, offices at 10501 Hague Road in Fishers, Indiana. I hope you agree that we rehabbed the building and did beautiful work as we committed to, and we have a glitch here. I just want to correct it.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We'll open up to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of 1807, please come to the podium. Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak against 1807, please come to the podium. Again, seeing none, back to council.
Motion for adoption?
Second.
Ms. Kaufman.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Gordy.
Aye.
Councilmember Freilich.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember McBride.
Aye.
Councilmember Roden.
Aye.
Councilmember Garner.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
9 ayes.
Thank you. First readings, please. Ms. Kaufman, would you please give first reading to 1318?
1318, first reading on an alley vacation, east-west alley, 14 feet in width and approximately 120 feet long from east right-of-way of Emerson Street and east right-of-way of north-south alley between Northside Boulevard and Hildreth Street, South Bend, Indiana.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to send this to Public Works and Property Vacation for 312?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. We'll turn to unfinished business. First of all, I'd like to say we will recognize Randy Kelly for his service to the city and this council. We appreciate what he's given to us, and we're sorry to see him go. We are grateful to have Sharon McBride with us. I do want to say, for those who were not there, the St. Joe Democratic Party did an excellent job, a very transparent process of putting together 8 individuals and having a good process to elect our winner, seat it with us. They were very good candidates, and I think Jason Critchlow hit it on the head when it really showed the diversity of the Democratic Party. With that, thank you. We're all here, all 9 of us, and the clerks are here to help you with anything you need to know, and so you succeed. Is there anything else from unfinished business? Seeing none. Any new business?
Couple announcements.
Yes.
Solid Waste Management District is meeting again tomorrow, and under consideration is an HHW fee of $12 and $11 and a recycling rate of $28 for those who are currently in the recycling program. And then second, another announcement relative to tomorrow night. I am participating, as well as Therese Duro from the Sustainability Office here at the City of South Bend. This was a project that Randy Kelly has been advancing for some time, and it is an opportunity to view a film called Little Warriors. It's at the Eck Visitor Center tomorrow night on the University of Notre Dame, 6:30 p.m. And it's specifically to invite children to get engaged on the issue of climate change and perhaps how they could work a pathway to support work here within the city for progress in that regard. So dinner served, and there's no fee, and it's, I think, a great opportunity to engage with an individual who's been involved in this statewide with youth, and who brings a terrific track record of making progress in this area. So I am looking forward to presenting in the evening along with Therese and Mr. Jim Poisner. So just an invite.
Any other new business? I will also like to say for committees, please, if you could, by the next council meeting, I think we're going to have a light agenda. If some of them if you want to do your kickoff meeting by next meeting, please have your kickoff meetings done for your committees. We got to get those done and get those moving forward. March 7th is the NNN Chili Supper. Everybody's invited. That's a big turnout. You meet some really good neighbors. It was a very good grassroots program. Anything else under new business? Nope. Seeing that, we'll turn to the privileged floor. This is the opportunity where citizens can address the council. They cannot address anything that was on the agenda tonight. And you have 3 minutes. Gavin Froelich will time you. He'll give you a 30-second exit. Please state your name and address and go.
City Council, 4022 Kennedy Drive. I'd like to point out that in South Bend and Mishawaka combined, there are 54,000 seniors, people over age 50. So I'd like to, when you're doing data for the council and considerations, consider that we have a lot of seniors struggling, and they seem to be overlooked. I helped 5 seniors with ruined homes this past week. Didn't have insurance, 5 feet of water. They lost their furnace, their water heater, and their washer and dryer. So I want to see that there's some help for them. I'd like to see, solar-wise, the city look at all the buildings. There's like 50 to 60 buildings that the city owns. Look at the rooftops, evaluate for solar and things like that, and even park pavilions. To redo all the roads in South Bend would take 72 years. I think we need to up the budget in your consideration of getting to more roads sooner, especially considering the recent potholes. I also think that the council needs to focus the budget on real priorities: opioid crisis, crime, roads, sewer overflows, not the fluff stuff, not the surface stuff. Really get down to work, because we got that circuit breaker coming. So as I'm evaluating in the next budget process, I'm hoping you guys get tough and really make some different priorities from what you've done in the past. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Samuel Brown, 222 East University in the city of South Bend. I work for a group of Citizens United. And as you know, I haven't been here for a while, but I have more pressing details with our school system, which is very important, because our kids was in dire need, not getting picked up, sitting out in the dark for a couple hours, not making the connections on the bus. So I worked hard with the school system. They're on a budget right now, trying to get a new budget for the bus drivers. Coming along slow, but it had to be done. This coming year, and I'm going to bring you up to date, like the flood area, I was in one of those areas. I think I talked to Dr. Vernon about 2 years ago. He was supposed to give me some information concerning flood insurance and stuff like that. And I called my insurance company, and I was very disheartened, very upset. But we got it done. We got on the computer, in the FEMA, and I wouldn't let them go. I was like a pit bull on this. And this is my flood insurance, right here. And also, by me being in that area, I had them get on there and see could we get it lowered. And since I was in a flood area, they got it lowered. That's what the system will get you.
Good.
And I'm just blessed that I was able to do this. And some of the other neighbors was really affected, and I hope they come out as well as I did. It is really serious. I'm going to move on to the last thing, is our roads. I hope that the city administration will update us on the roads that they are repairing, so we find an alternative route if we can, because some people just used to go in the same way. But our roads are in real bad shape. And I hope that we get the funding that we need to get these potholes. They looked in the paper today with some real bad pictures in there about the potholes. I'm quite sure we're getting done, but we just want to be patient until we can get it done. Thank you for listening to my comments. Hopefully I can be back again. If not, I'll be at the school board meeting.
Great, thank you.
Mr. President, before we finish,
yes, sir.
Can we have an update next time regarding the trains on the west side?
Yes.
Because there's some money.
Yeah, I talked to Eric about that. Yeah, there's a study coming on that. I don't think it's quite complete, but we can get an update.
Yeah, that and Ardmore. Thank you.
Okay.
That's all. I'm cool.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Good night, everybody. Thank you for coming. Bianca, give me those. Let me sign them.
Yeah, Judy.
Good job, Jen.
Good job, Jen.
Yeah, got a good one. That's good. Yeah. Nice and fast.
Oh, how are you? Nice to try that. Do you have anybody upstairs at all? The top song lanes?
Who was on the movie?
I really don't know what.
Oh, okay.
I get the photo, Bob.
I can see that kind of stuff, so what do you think? Oh, my God. That's the reason. Well, I was impressed. I was like, oh, I heard that. Right. Yes, let's do. Let's do that.
Okay.